I think we are live. Hello everyone, welcome to My Fluency Journey. And this is uh, today session is where I read the book Sapien and I will extract some vocabulary words from me. So yeah, if you wanted to learn some new English words and enjoy reading books, then you can follow me. So yeah, this is the book. So yeah, I am reading currently. The ideal of progress. Until the scientific revolution, most human cultures did not believe in progress. They thought the golden age was in the past and that the world was stagnant. The world was stagnant. What's the meaning of stagnant? So the world was stagnant. So yeah, we can search on stagnant. Not flowing and moving, it means constant, inactive or sluggish. Not flowing or moving. Not moving. Inactive. Inactive. If not deteriorating. Strict adherence to the wisdom of the ages might perhaps bring back the good old times, and human ingenuity might conceivably improve this for conceivably. Conceivable is possible to improve. Possibly. Okay. Conceivably means possible. Possibly. You can search. Right? I can search for. Conceivably means possible. Yes, right, possibly, right. Improve this or that facet of daily life. However, it was considered impossible for human know how to overcome the world's fundamental problem. If even Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, and Confucius, who knew everything there is to know, were unable to abolish famine, disease, poverty, and war from the world, how could we expect to do so? Many faiths believed that someday a Messiah would appear and end all wars, famines, and even death itself. But the notion that humankind could do so by discovering new knowledge and inventing new tools was worse than ludicrous. 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 Okay. It means foolish, unreasonable. Foolish. Unreasonable. It was hubris. Hubris. Should be RS. Hubris is the one rich in history and drama. Excessive pride and ego, which was self-ego, which was self-confidence, leads to downfall. Excessive pride. The story of the Tower of Babel, the story of Iracus, the story of Golem, and the countless myths taught people that any attempt to go beyond human limitations would inevitably needs uh, impossibly or unstoppably or not ending. Unstoppable. Unstoppable. So yeah, this inevitably. It's unavoidable or unstoppable. When modern culture admitted that there were many important things that we still did not know, and when the mission of ignorance was married to the idea that scientific discoveries could give us new powers, people began suspecting that real progress might be possible after all. As science began to solve one unsolvable problem after another, many became convinced that humankind could overcome any and every problem by acquiring and applying new knowledge. Poverty, sickness, wars, famines, old age, and death itself were not the inevitable fate of humankind. They were simply the fruits of our ignorance. A famous example is lightning. Many cultures believed that lightning was the hammer of an angry god, used to punish sinners. In the middle of the 18th century, in one of the most celebrated experiments in scientific history, Benjamin Franklin flew a kite during a lightning storm to test the hypothesis that lightning is simply electric current. Franklin empirical observations coupled with his knowledge about the qualities of electrical energy, enabled him to invent the lightning rod and disarm the gods. So yeah, you can watch the, you can see the image. Poverty is another case in point. Many cultures have viewed poverty as an inescapable part of this imperfect world. According to the New Testament, shortly before the crucifixion, 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 CIFI, bound to cross and left to die. A woman anointed Christ with precious oil with 300 denarii. Jesus' disciples scolded the woman for wasting such a huge sum of money instead of giving it to the poor. But Jesus defended her, saying that the poor you will always have with you. You can help them any time you want, but you will not always hear me. Today, fewer and fewer people, including fewer and fewer Christians, agree with Jesus on this matter. Poverty is increasingly seen as a technical problem, amenable to intervention. Amenable. Unavoidable, I think. Amenable or avoidable is a bunch. Think so, right? Okay, amenable is, yeah, agreeable. Oh, agreeable to intervention. It's common wisdom that policies based on the latest findings in economics, medicine, and sociology can eliminate poverty. And indeed, many parts of the world have already been freed from the worst form of deprivations. Throughout history, societies have suffered from two kinds of poverty: social falls from some people, the opportunities available to others, and biological poverty, which puts the very lives of individuals at risk due to lack of food and shelter. Perhaps social poverty can never be eradicated or never be removed. Eradicated means removed. Eradicated may never be eradicated, removed. Okay, I think due to some poor internet connections, it's not working right. But in many countries around the world, biological poverty is a thing of the past. Until recently, most people hovered very close to the biological poverty line, below which a person lacks enough calories to sustain life for long. Even small miscalculations or misfortunes could easily push people below that line into starvation. Natural disasters and man-made calamities often plunge entire population over the abscess in the death of millions. People Today, most of the world's people have a safety net stretched below them. Individuals are protected from their personal misfortune by insurance, state-sponsored social security, and a plethora of local and international NGOs. When calamity strikes an entire region, worldwide relief efforts are usually successful in preventing the worst. People still suffer from numerous degradations, humiliations, and poverty-related illness, but in the most countries, nobody is starving to death. In fact, in many societies, more people are in danger of dying from obesity than starvation. Plethora, 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 excessive or overabundant. the Gilgamesh Gilgamesh project. Gilgamesh. Legendary king of Uruk. Of all mankind's ostensibly insoluble problem. Ostensibly. Ostensibly. Within virtues. Ostensibly of a town. Apparently or seemingly, but necessarily. Apparently. Seemingly, but not necessarily. Actually. Not necessarily. One has remained the most vexing, interesting and important, the problem of death itself. Before the late modern era, most religions and ideologies took it from granted that death was our inevitable fate. Moreover, most faiths turned death into the main course of meaning in life. Try to imagine Islam, Christianity or the ancient Egyptian religion in a world without death. These creeds means beliefs. You can search it. Like I can search it for me. Creeds. Taught people that they must come to terms with death and build their hopes on an afterlife. Rather than seek to overcome death and live forever here on earth, the best minds were busy giving meaning to death and not trying to escape it. That is the theme of the most ancient myth to come down to thus, the Gilgamesh myth of ancient Sumer. Its hero is the strongest and the most capable man in the world, the King Gilgamesh of Uruk, who could defeat anyone greater. One day, Gilgamesh's best friend Enkidu died. Gilgamesh stood by the body and observed it for many days until he saw a worm creeping out of his friend's nostril. At that moment, Gilgamesh was gripped by terrible horror and he resolved that he himself would never die. He would somehow find a way to defeat death. Gilgamesh then undertook a journey to the end of the universe, killing lions, battling scorpion men, and finding his way into the underworld. There he shattered the mysterious stone thing of Oshanabi, the ferryman of the river of the dead, and found Utnapishtim, the last survivor of the primordial flood. Yet Gilgamesh failed in his quest. What is the quest? A long, difficult search. As a long journey. A long, difficult search. Okay, long, difficult search. Seek. For us discovery is journey to pursuit, achieve a journey. He returned home empty-handed, as mortal as ever, but with a new piece of wisdom. When the gods created men, Gilgamesh has learned. They said that as men's inevitable destiny, and men must learn the limit to them. It is unavoidable. Inevitable means unavoidable. Disciples of progress do not share this defeatist attitude. For men of science, that is not an inevitable destiny but merely a technical problem. People died because the God decreed it. People died not because the God decreed it. Ordered. Decreed means ordered. But due to various technical failures, a heart attack, cancer, and infection, and The problem has a technical solution. If the heart flutters, it can be stimulated by a pacemaker or replaced by a new heart. If cancer rampages, it can be killed with drugs and radiations. Rampages. What is rampages? Yes. They can be subdued with antibiotics. True, at present we cannot solve all technical problems, but we are working on them. Our best minds are not wasting their best time trying to give meaning to the history. They are busy investigating the physiological, hormonal, and genetic systems responsible for disease and old age. They are developing new medicines, revolutionary treatments, and artificial organs that will lengthen our lives and might one day vanquish the Grim Reaper himself. Vanquish means defeat. Vanquish. I know that meaning. Vanquish. Until recently, you would have heard scientists or anyone else speak to so bluntly. Defeat death. What nonsense. We are only trying to cure cancer, tuberculosis, and Alzheimer's disease, they insisted. People avoided the issue of death because the gods seemed too elusive. Why create unreasonable expectations? We are now at a point, however, can be frank about it. The leading project of the scientific revolution is to give humankind eternal life. Eternal means never ending. Even if killing that seems a distant goal. We have already achieved things that are inconceivable, impossible a few years ago. Inconceivable means impossible. In 1119, in 1199, King Richard the Learned was struck by an arrow in his left shoulder. Today, we'd see he incurred a minor injury, but in 1199, in the absence of antibiotics and effective sterilization methods, this minor flash found infected and gangrene set in. Gangrene. The only way to stop the spread of the gangrene death of body tissue due to lack of blood. The death of body tissue. The only way to stop the spread of the gangrene in the 12th century was to cut off the infected limb. Impossible when the infection wasn't started. The gangrene spread through the learner's body and no one would help the king. He died in great agony 2 weeks later. Great agony and great pain. Agony means pain, right? Great agony. Intense emotional weight or extreme physical mental suffering. Extreme pain. As recently as the 19th century, the best doctors still did not know how to prevent infection and stop the putrefaction of their tissues. And field hospital doctor routinely cut off the hands and legs of soldiers who received even minor dull injuries, fearing gangrene. These amputations, as well as the other medical procedures, were done without any anesthetics. The first anesthetics, chloroform or morphine, entered regular use in Western medicine only in the middle of 19th century. Before the advent of chloroform, before the advent means advent as invention, right? Advent is invention, right? Arrival. Okay. Before the arrival of advent of the arrival of. 4 soldiers had to hold down a wounded comrade while the doctors sewed up the injured limb. On the morning after the Battle of Waterloo, heaps of sewn off legs and hands and legs could be seen adjacent to the field hospital. In those days, carpenters and butchers who enlisted to the army were often sent to serve in the medical corps because surgery requires little more than knowing your way around knives and swords. And the 2 centuries since Waterloo, things have changed beyond recognition. Pills, injections, and sophisticated operations saves us from a spate of illness and injuries that once did an inescapable distance. They also protect us against countless daily aches and ailments and spate of illness. Spade, winning. Spade is the word spade is vivid in respect. Large number of elements. Medicines, physical and minor are more life threatening. Physical disorders. Which pre-modern people simply accepted as a part. Expectancy jumped from well below 40 years to around 67 in the entire world and to around 80 years in the developed world. That suffered its worst setbacks in the arena of child mortality until the 20th century. Between a quarter and a third of the most children of the religious societies never reach adulthood. Most succumb to childhood diseases such as diphtheria, measles, and smallpox. In 17th century England, 150 odd newborn died during their first years and third of all children before they reach 15. Today, only 5 of the 1,000 English babies died during their first year, and only 7 out of 1,000 died before age 50. We can better grasp the full impact of these figures by setting statistics and telling some stories. A good example is the family of King Edward I of England and his wife Queen Eleanor. Their children enjoyed the best conditions and the most nurturing surroundings that could be provided in medieval Europe. They lived in places, ate as much as food as they liked, had plenty of warm clothing, well-stocked fireplaces, the cleanest water available, an army of servants, and the best doctors. The sources mention 16 children, and Queen Eleanor were between 1255 and 1284. An enormous daughter born in England died at birth. The daughter Catherine died either at age 1 or age 3. Their daughter Joan died at 6 months. Her son John died at age 5. Her son Henry died at age 6. Her daughter Eleanor died at age 29. Her Norman's daughter died at 5 months. Her daughter Joan died at age 35. Her son Alfonso died at age 10. Her daughter Margaret died at 58. Her daughter Bergeria died at age 2. Anonymous daughter died shortly after birth. Daughter Mary died at 53. Anonymous son died shortly after birth. Daughter Elizabeth died at 34. A son Edward, the youngest, was the first of the boys to survive the dangerous year of childhood, and at his first father's death, he ascended the youngest son of King Edward II. In other words, it took 16 tries to carry out the most fundamental mission of an English king to provide a husband with a male heir. Edward II's mother must have been a woman of exceptional patience and fortitude. Fortitude means courage, right? It's courage and strength of mind. Exceptional patience and courage. Not so the woman. Not Edward chose for his wife Isabella of France. She had him murdered when he was 43. To the best of our knowledge, Eleanor and Edward were a healthy couple and caused no fatal hereditary illness onto their children. Nevertheless, 10 out of 62% died during childhood. Only 6 managed to live beyond the age of 11, and only just 18% lived beyond the age of 40. In addition to these births, Eleanor most likely had a number of pregnancies and miscarriages. On average, Edward and Eleanor was had every 3 years, 10 years, till 10 children after another. It's nearly impossible for a parent today to imagine such loss. How long will the Gilgamesh project, the quest for immortality, take to complete? 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. When we recall how little we know about human body in Nigeria, how much knowledge we gain in a single century, there is a cause of optimism. Genetic engineering have recently managed to double the average life expectancy of Canor habitats like in worms. Could they be seen from Homo sapiens? Nanotechnology experts are developing a bionic immune system composed of billions of nanorobots which could inhabit our bodies, often block vessels. For viruses, bacteria, they limit these vessels, animals reverse aging processes. A few serious scholars suggested that by 2050, some humans will become immortal. Not immortal because they could still die of some accident, but immortal meaning that in the absence of fatal trauma, their lives would be extended indefinitely. Okay. Whether or not Project Gilgamesh succeeds, from a historical perspective, it's fascinating to see that most later modern religious and ideologies have already taken death and afterlife out of the equation. Until the 18th century, religions considered death and its aftermath central to their meaning of life. Beginning in the 18th century, religions and ideologies such as liberalism, socialism, feminism lost all interest in the afterlife. What exactly happens to a communist after he or she dies? What happens to a capitalist? What happens to a feminist? It is pointless to look for the answer in the writing of Marx, Adam Smith, or Simon de Beauvoir. The only modern ideology that is still about death as a central role is nationalism. In its more poetic and desperate moments, nationalism promises that whoever dies for the nation will forever alive in its collective memory. Yet this promise is so fuzzy that even most nationalists do not really know what to make of it. Fuzzy. Fuzzy. Is that fine, yes. Not clear and distinct. When this point is not clear and distinct. Now, next topic is the sugar daddy of science. We are living in a technical age. Many are convinced that science and technology hold the answer to all our problems. We should just let the scientists and technicians go on with their work and they will create heaven here on the earth. But science is not an enterprise that takes place on some superior moral or spiritual plane above the rest of human activity. Like all other parts of our culture, it is shaped by economic, political, and religious interests. Science is a very expensive affair. A biologist seeking to understand the human immune system requires laboratories, test tubes, chemicals, and electrodes. Not to mention lab assistants, electricians, plumbers, and cleaners. An economist seeking to model credit market must buy computers, set up giant data banks, and develop complicated data processing programs. An archaeologist who wishes to understand the behavior of Arctic hunter-gatherers must travel to distant lands, excavate ancient ruins, and date fossil bones and artifacts. All of this costs money. During the past 500 years, modern science has achieved wonders, thanks largely to the willingness of governments, businesses, foundations, and private donors to channel billions of dollars into scientific research. These billions have done much more to chart the universe, map the planet, and catalog the animal kingdom than Galileo Galilei, Christopher Columbus, and Charles Darwin. If these particular geniuses had never been born, their insights would probably have occurred to others. But if the proper fundings were unavailable, no intellectual brilliance could have compensated for that. If Darwin had never been born, for example, we today attribute the theory of evolution to Alfred Russel Wallace, who came up with the idea of evolution via natural selection independently of Darwin, and just a few later.